intelligence, consciousness, and the idea of God. When a species evolves to the point of intelligence, it gradually learns to control and reshape the environment it inhabits. This mastery over nature leads not only to technological progress, but also to philosophical reflection. At a certain stage of awareness, an intelligent species begins to recognize a fundamental distinction between the physical body and the consciousness that animates it. The body is material, subject to decay and disintegration over time, while consciousness appears enduring, stable, and non-degradable in comparison. This realization becomes a turning point in how such beings understand existence itself. Consciousness, however, does not function alone. It operates through a tool commonly referred to as the mind. The mind enables reasoning, decision-making, memory, and interaction with the external world. This distinction is evident in everyday language. We say, use your mind to solve a problem, or calm your mind in moments of distress. We do not speak of calming consciousness, because consciousness is not turbulent by nature, it simply is. The mind, by contrast, is dynamic, reactive, and shaped by experience. This linguistic intuition reflects a deeper truth about human self-awareness. Ancient civilizations articulated this distinction through the concept of the soul. The soul was understood as a localized point of consciousness, residing within each living body. According to this view, without the soul, no organism can move, grow, or exhibit life. Life itself was seen as evidence of an animating principle that transcended physical matter. From this understanding arose the belief that consciousness is not confined to individual beings but exists everywhere, permeating the universe in varying forms. As intelligent beings observe nature more closely, they also notice that reality is not random. Beneath apparent chaos lies order. Seasons follow cycles, celestial bodies move with precision, and physical phenomena obey consistent patterns. These patterns resemble laws, rules that govern how the universe functions. From this observation emerged a powerful inference. If there are laws, there must be a lawmaker. This lawmaker, being the source of universal order, must be superior to all individual souls. Thus arose the concept of a supreme consciousness, often referred to as the supersoul or God. This realization, that consciousness is distinct from the body and that the universe is governed by a higher order, is arguably a natural conclusion for any sufficiently intelligent species. It is not dependent on culture or geography, but emerges from rational observation and introspection. In this sense, belief in a higher organizing principle may be an almost inevitable outcome of advanced consciousness. According to certain alternative historical narratives, the celestial beings said to have originated from the planet Nibiru were not ignorant of these truths. Their surviving literature suggests that they, too, believed in a supreme God beyond themselves. However, as a technologically advanced creator species responsible for the creation of humanity, they sought absolute obedience from their creation. To achieve this, they appropriated the foundational realization of intelligent beings, the concept of God, and manipulated it for control. By presenting themselves as gods, they blurred the distinction between the supreme lawmaker and powerful but finite beings. Through indoctrination, they redirected humanity's innate spiritual understanding toward unquestioning service. In doing so, they transformed a universal philosophical realization into a tool of domination. This act represents not the denial of God, but the corruption of the idea of God for political and social control. In conclusion, the evolution of intelligence naturally leads to questions about consciousness, order, and origin. While the body is temporary, consciousness appears enduring, operating through the mind and giving rise to the concept of the soul. The recognition of universal laws points toward a supreme organizing principle. The tragedy, as suggested by these narratives, lies not in belief itself, but in the manipulation of belief by those who seek power over others. The saying, "The best way to find the needle in the haystack is to burn the haystack," does not advocate destruction for its own sake. It advocates discernment. The haystack represents accumulated layers of assumptions, traditions, symbols, jargon, and comforting narratives that surround a core truth. The needle is the truth itself, small, precise, and easily lost amid excess. Searching carefully through every strand of hay may take a lifetime, and even then the seeker risks mistaking straw for substance. Burning the haystack is a metaphor for eliminating what is unnecessary so that what is essential becomes unmistakably visible. In the pursuit of truth, complexity is often mistaken for depth. Over time, ideas acquire ceremonial language, rigid doctrines, technical terms, and elaborate explanations. While these may have originated as tools to convey understanding, they frequently harden into barriers. Instead of illuminating truth, they obscure it. Fictitious terminology and excessive paraphernalia give an illusion of authority and profundity, discouraging questioning and rewarding conformity. The reader becomes occupied with interpreting symbols rather than grasping meaning. To burn the haystack is to engage in intellectual and spiritual minimalism. It means stripping concepts down to their experiential and logical core. This process is uncomfortable because it requires letting go of familiar frameworks and inherited beliefs. It demands the courage to ask whether a term explains something or merely names it. When we remove layers of interpretation, what remains is not always grand or reassuring, but it is honest. Truth, like the needle, is often simple, sharp, and resistant to embellishment. This approach also guards against deception. Truth wrapped in excessive language becomes vulnerable to manipulation. When ideas are cloaked in complexity, authority can be falsely claimed by those who control the vocabulary. By reducing concepts to their bare essentials, we make them accessible to direct understanding rather than mediated belief. What can be understood without ornamentation can be tested, questioned, and verified through reason and experience. Moreover, burning the haystack does not destroy truth. It reveals it. The needle survives the fire because it is real. Falsehoods, by contrast, depend on protection, on layers of explanation, fear, and reverence. When subjected to scrutiny, they collapse. Fire, in this sense, represents critical thinking, skepticism, and clarity. It consumes what is hollow and leaves behind what endures. Ultimately, the verse suggests that truth does not need to be defended by complexity. It stands on its own. The seeker's task is not to accumulate more ideas, but to subtract what is unnecessary. When the noise is silenced and the clutter removed, the truth reveals itself, not as something newly created, but as something that was always there, waiting to be seen. The dynastic literary fragment known as UKG 15 is widely regarded as one of the earliest recorded creation narratives in human history. Rather than presenting creation as a sudden act or a spoken command, the text frames the origin of the cosmos through union, fertility, and emergence. This reflects an early metaphysical intuition. Existence arises not from nothingness, but from interaction between complementary principles. At the center of the fragment is the cosmic marriage of An and Ki. An represents the sky, or the heavenly principle. Here it represents planet Nibiru, while Ki represents the earth or the material ground of existence. Their union symbolizes the moment when undifferentiated reality begins to organize itself. The line, "a hole in the earth, it is filled with semen water," is a direct fertility metaphor, equating creation with the act of impregnation. Water and semen, both life-bearing substances, are interchangeable here, reinforcing the idea that life flows from a primordial essence rather than from form. An is described as the Lord, in a young hero's way of standing, suggesting potency, vitality, and creative force. This is not an age-distant deity, but an active, generative presence. The shouting of An and Ki in union conveys not chaos, but exuberance, the ecstatic release of creative energy as the cosmos begins to take shape. Creation, in this worldview, is not silent or sterile. It is visceral, dynamic, and alive. The repeated emphasis on what does not yet exist is equally significant. Enki, Ninki, Enlil, and Ninlil, major deities associated with wisdom, order, atmosphere, and law, are explicitly stated to be absent. This situates the event in a pre-cosmic or proto-cosmic phase, before specialization, hierarchy, and governance. The universe exists in a state of pure potential, before division into functions and roles. time itself appears suspended. Lines such as, "Today, the day before," "Day is not passing," and "The rays of the moon are not going out," suggest a reality before temporal flow. There is light, but no passage of time. There is existence, but no measurement of it. This implies that time, like order and law, is a secondary phenomenon, emerging only after the initial act of creation. Importantly, this myth does not depict creation as a moral or judicial act. There is no command, no judgment, and no purpose assigned to humanity. Instead, creation is natural, almost inevitable, arising from the union of fundamental forces. The gods themselves are born into this unfolding reality, rather than standing outside it as eternal overseers. In philosophical terms, UKG 15 presents creation as process rather than event. Consciousness, order, and structure arise gradually from an undivided whole. This aligns with later metaphysical ideas found in other traditions, that existence unfolds from unity into multiplicity, from potential into form. Thus, the fragment is not merely a mythological curiosity, but a profound early attempt to articulate the origins of reality. It reveals that even at the dawn of recorded civilization, humans were grappling with questions of emergence, time, consciousness, and cosmic order, questions that remain central to philosophy, science, and theology today. The god Enki, later known as Ea in Babylonian tradition, occupies a unique and enduring position in Mesopotamian religious history. The earliest royal inscriptions mentioning Enki originate in the Lagasite region around 2500 BC, while the latest references appeared during the dynasty of Hammurabi, a period when Sumerian had largely ceased to be a spoken language. This long textual span highlights Enki's sustained theological importance across cultural and linguistic transitions. In his Pantheon Babylonicum, 1914, Anton Dymel defined Ea as Ea, Deus abyssi et aquae, Deus sapientiae et artium, Deus magorum, the god of the abyss and sweet waters, of wisdom and crafts, and of magic. This description aligns closely with Sumerian portrayals of Enki as the lord of the Abzu, the subterranean reservoir of fresh water, and as a divine engineer, lawgiver, and master of esoteric knowledge. In Sumerian art and clay tablets, Enki is frequently depicted with streams of water flowing from his shoulders, symbolizing life, fertility, and hidden wisdom. A striking parallel appears in Hindu mythology, where Lord Shiva is portrayed with the river Ganga flowing from his head. This iconographic similarity has encouraged comparative interpretations across cultures. Linguistic connections further support such inquiry. A Luwian, Phoenician bilingual inscription from Kara Tepe describes the god El as the creator of earth. At the same time, the Luwian text identifies Lord El with E-Iasa, understood as the Luwian equivalent of Ea. It is proposed that this phonetic form later entered Indo-Aryan dialects as E-Iasa, eventually transforming into Ishwara, a prominent name of Lord Shiva. Among Enki's many epithets, Ea, meaning house of water, is particularly significant. Some modern interpretations propose that this house of fresh water, the Abzu, corresponds geographically to Antarctica, reasoning that snow and ice represent fresh water in solid form. Supporting this idea are inscriptions in which Enki speaks of two realms, the underworld and the netherworld. The underworld is described as lying below the equator and associated with Enki's first terrestrial domain, later said to have been overtaken by the oceans, interpreted as rapid freezing and ice coverage. The netherworld, described as a land of no return, is identified with Siberia, ruled by Enki's second son, Nergal, also known as Mut in Canaanite tradition, and Muruga, Karthikeya, in Hindu mythology, known as in different traditions as the Lord of War, Supreme General of Gods, and Lord of Death. Together, these mythological, linguistic, and symbolic correspondences suggest a complex web of shared archetypes, preserved and reinterpreted across civilizations and millennia. The identification of Abzu, the domain of Enki, has long been debated in ancient Near Eastern studies. While many historians, including Zechariah Sitchin, have argued for Africa based on hydrological and civilizational factors, closer examination of early textual evidence reveals compelling reasons to reconsider this conclusion. The strongest support for this reassessment comes from astronomical descriptions embedded directly in early myths, particularly an Eblate text concerning the sun god Utu, Re 5:6. In this passage, Utu is described as a great herald of both heaven and earth, Ki, whose strong light circles around daytime during the night. This phrasing is precise and unusual. It does not describe the conventional sunrise-sunset cycle observed across most of the globe. Instead, it describes a continuous solar presence, where light persists in a circular path across both day and night. Such a phenomenon is not symbolic abstraction. It corresponds to a specific, observable astronomical condition. On Earth, this condition occurs in only two places, the Arctic Circle and Antarctica, where the sun traces a circular or oblong path along the horizon during summer months, remaining visible for 24 hours. Mesopotamian texts consistently describe the Abzu or underworld of Enki as lying below the equator, immediately eliminating the Arctic as a candidate. By process of elimination grounded in textual geography and astronomical fact, Antarctica remains the only viable location consistent with the description. Further, Enki is repeatedly identified as the Lord of Sweet Waters, and Abzu is defined as the primordial reservoir of fresh water. Antarctica today contains the largest concentration of fresh water on Earth, preserved in solid form as ice. Snow and ice are not symbolic substitutes for water. They are water, chemically and materially. This directly aligns with Enki's own definition of his domain. There is another theory, which was just a theory, but was substantiated by an event that followed it, that put some light on its credibility. This idea intersects with another strand of modern speculation concerning Antarctica's hidden significance. A controversial theory proposes that Adolf Hitler did not die in Berlin, but instead escaped to Antarctica. This theory gained attention after Operation High Jump, a large U.S. naval expedition to Antarctica in 1946-47. The mission ended abruptly, and later accounts, some official, many anecdotal, which ended disastrously as they encountered unidentified flying and submersible objects that attacked their ships and men. There is testimony by soldiers who said that these flying UFOs cut their metal ships in half by lasers. Soon the entire U.S. armada of what was left of the expedition retreated with tails between their legs and never went back. So this begs the question, why did Hitler, of all places, chose Antarctica as his only and final refuge? Was Hitler an Enkiite? Linking these events to ancient Enki traditions introduces further conjecture. The suggestion that Hitler may have aligned himself with Enkiite symbolism, or that his genocidal actions reflected a mythical conflict between Enkiites and Enlilites. Early myths concerning the sun god Utu, preserved in texts from Ebla, Ereti 5:6, and Abu Salabik, OIP 99, 326 and 342, describe the movements of the sun across distinct cosmic regions. These sources portray Utu as traveling in the sky during the daytime and during the night, visiting subterranean domains associated with Enki. The Eblate passage states, Eret 5:6, 5I2, OIP 99, 326. Then, Great Herald of Mountains goes around. Herald N, Heaven, Herald of, the Road of, Ki, Enlil. Strong light circles around daytime during the night. This hymn narrates the continuous passage of the sun and identifies Utu as a herald of An, heaven, Ki, earth, and Enlil, emphasizing his role as a mediator between realms. The phrase, strong light circles around daytime during the night, describes the sun's journey as uninterrupted, extending beyond ordinary daylight observation. According to our findings, this passage refers to two separate destinations visited by the sun god. The underworld, identified with the Abzu, and the netherworld, described as the realm of the dead. The underworld is associated with Antarctica, while the netherworld is identified with the Siberian Arctic. The hymn clearly distinguishes these two realms as different locations, visited by the sun on separate occasions. Because the sun is said to circle one realm at a time, these regions must be geographically opposed, located at opposite ends of the earth. This distinction establishes that the underworld and the netherworld are not interchangeable concepts but represent separate polar domains. This hymn is considered vital to understanding present global conditions. According to our framework, the ancient division of these realms provides context for why two modern nations, the United States and Russia, remain adversarial, reflecting a continuation of ancient territorial and ideological divisions. Further clarification of this connection is addressed through additional ancient texts referenced in subsequent analysis. Our findings focus on the Sumerian god Enki, as described in royal hymns, and their continuity across later traditions. The hymn continues by glorifying Enki for his mastery of the princely Mies and for being the leader of the Anuna deities. Enki is repeatedly titled the Great Bull of Abzu, Gugal Abzu-e, emphasizing his authority over the Abzu and its sacred powers. In the Shulgi hymn to Enki, Reva 28-31, the text states, "Great Lord, the princely Mies of heaven and earth, who holds Enki, the powerful one of the Anuna gods, foremost of the great gods, exalted one of the holy An, Nudimmud, the great bull of Abzu, glorious for his pure Mies." This passage presents Enki as the supreme custodian of the divine laws governing both heaven and earth. The following section, Shulgi hymn to Enki, Rev 32-35, continues. King, who calls forth cleansing rituals for the great lords, when deciding fates, standing tall, the wise one, the bull, truly taking care for the great Mies, for the holy Mies, great Lord, important Lord, lordship you have tied with you. These hymns consistently associate Enki with the bull, wisdom, ritual authority, and the safeguarding of cosmic order. Here, Mies were akin to data storage devices, which contained a huge amount of data on any given subject from its study, research, to the application of such findings. In Hindu mythology, Lord Shiva is likewise associated with a bull, his personal vizier, Nandi. Our study identifies Enki's equivalent attendant as Isimud, also known as Ara in Sumerian literature. Isimud is uniquely portrayed as the sole confidant of Enki, entrusted with his deepest intentions and secrets, a role parallel to Nandi's relationship with Shiva. Archaeological findings from Harappa include a coin depicting Shiva as Pashupati and another depicting a great bull, indicating the presence of a culture aligned with Enkiite symbolism. The Harappa civilization followed Enki as their chief god. They were Enkiites. This region was formerly designated as the fourth civilizational division of Earth when the Anunnaki divided domains among themselves. It was initially governed by Inanna Ishtar, who later abandoned it, as her activity shifted toward regions now identified as Europe and the Middle East. This also explains the radiation levels found on human skeletal remains found in Harappa, suggesting there was a nuclear explosion that brought an end to this region and its residents. Nuclear power, since the beginning of history, was possessed only by Enlilites, and its use at Harappa testifies to this claim, as this region belonged to their bitter enemies, the Enkiites. It seems history does repeat itself. The fate of Harappa was a repetition of what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah. Enki, the Destroyer. Our study presents evidence from Sumerian lamentation literature that the Anunnaki gods were not only the creators of mankind but also its destroyers. Among these deities, Enki occupies a complex and central role. He is remembered as mankind's savior, teacher, educator, secret benefactor, and instructor, yet at the same time he appears as the primary decision-maker in humanity's ultimate destruction. In the Uruk lament, I Fort 11, the increase in human population and the consequences of that growth are explicitly described. The text states, "The living man like the gods became to be as numerous, far-reaching decision when they had decided, the gods to consume Enki and Ninki, made the plan, doomed, the humanity to be unworthy. Inu and Ninil determined their destiny. When An and Enlil gave birth to it, it resembled. When Ninlil gave its appearance, it was, when Arudu, Suen, and Enki fashioned its limbs." This passage records that Enki and his consort Ninki concluded that mankind had become unworthy and untrustworthy. The gods collectively determined humanity's fate, despite the fact that they themselves had fashioned mankind's body and form. The lament indicates dissatisfaction among the gods with human behavior following their rapid increase in number. Further evidence appears in the Lament of Sumer and Ur, 22-26. When An became angry upon the lands, Enlil looked at the foreign enemy lands. Nintu pushed away from her, the beings created by her. Enki changed the course of the rivers Tigris and Euphrates. Here, Nintu, Ninhursag, the creative goddess of mankind, rejects her own creation. Enki is described as altering the flow of the Tigris and Euphrates, directly affecting agriculture and survival, bringing drought and famine upon the land. The coordinated destruction is further detailed in Lament of Sumer and Ur, 58-64. And frightened, the dwellings of Sumer and the people became afraid. Enlil caused an evil storm to pass upon the dwellings. Silence in the city followed. Nintu bolted the door of the storage chamber of the land. Enki blocked the waters in the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Utu took away justice and firm words from his mouth for Sumer. Inanna handed over victory in battle and combats to the rebel lands. Ningirsu poured Sumer away like milk to the former slaves. Utu cursed the roads and ways. These laments collectively describe a deliberate, multi-deity effort to destroy mankind. According to our findings, the gods were angered because humans competed for food, withheld produce, and failed to serve the gods as intended. Humanity, created to labor for the gods, kept the fruits of the land for itself, provoking divine retaliation. Enki and his wife Ninki decided to doom mankind and found them untrustworthy. Ninhursag, the creative goddess of man, pushed him away with disgust. Enki brought drought upon the lands by blocking rivers so that no grains could be grown. Enlil went a step further, as is customary with him. He used chemical weapons, poisonous gas, to kill the entire villages, as told in Lament of Sumer and Ur 58-64. Every major Anunnaki deity participated. Thus, Enki emerges not only as mankind's benefactor, but also as a decisive architect of its destruction, demonstrating that the Anunnaki's role toward humanity encompassed both creation and annihilation. In the Bhagavad Gita, the relationship between humans, gods, and demigods is presented as a carefully balanced system of mutual obligation. What angered the creator gods and demigods, according to this framework, was not merely human disobedience, but the breakdown of this reciprocal order that sustained creation itself. In Text 10, Karma Yoga, the Gita explains the original arrangement at the time of creation. Sahayajnir prajshpurvacha prajap anina prasavishadvam esha vostvishakamaduk. Translation: In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures created mankind and demigods together with yajna, sacrifice, and declared, "By this shall you prosper, this shall fulfill all your desires." Here, creation itself is inseparable from yajna, meaning sacred offering, duty, and reciprocal service. Humans were not created as independent consumers, but as participants in a cosmic economy. The gods maintain cosmic order, rain, fertility, seasons, and abundance, while humans sustain the gods through offerings, gratitude, and righteous action. This interdependence is reinforced in Text 11. Devan bhavayatanena to deva bhavayantu va parasparam bhavayanta shreya paramavapsyatha. By nourishing the demigods through sacrifice, the demigods will nourish you in return. Thus, supporting one another, you shall attain the highest good. The fury of the gods arises when this cycle is disrupted. Text 12 makes this explicit. Ishtan pogan hivo deva dashyante yajbhavita terdatan apardayabhyo yo bhukte stena evasa. The demigods, satisfied by yajna, grant necessities of life, but one who enjoys these gifts without offering in return is a thief. Thus, divine anger is not arbitrary cruelty. It is a response to humans, taking without giving, consuming without acknowledging the divine sources of sustenance. When humans abandon yajna, duty, sacrifice, and reciprocity, they undermine the very order that allows life to flourish. In the Gita, this moral failure, rather than ignorance alone, is what provokes divine displeasure and cosmic imbalance. Mythologically, death was not something inevitable, since it had not been present in the early days of civilization. However, after the flood, the gods had chosen to take an oath that the only human being who can achieve eternal life would be the flood hero Ziusudra, or Noha. For the king Gilgamesh, the eternal life on earth is already forbidden. Although the gods An and Enlil seem to be in favor of granting eternal life to Gilgamesh because of his great and kingly achievements, Enki is the god who determines that Gilgamesh must go to the underworld to dwell among the dead. Even the fact that his mother was a deity, meaning she was Anunnaki herself, cannot save him because he is part human. In the story of the death of Gilgamesh, there is a long speech of Enki clarifying the human fate and human death, and that they will always remain mortal. In Death of Gilgamesh, VN1N2 725, it states, Uanu, Gal Shazu Keshtazu Namba'an. You were told that this is what the evil of belonging to mankind brings? You were told that this is what the cutting of your umbilical cord brings? The day which is the darkest for mankind has arrived for you. The place which is the loneliest for mankind has arrived for you. The flood, impossible to oppose, has arrived for you. The battle, impossible to flee, has arrived for you. The unequal combat has arrived for you. The fight from where there is no escape has arrived for you. But still, you should not go to the underworld, great city, with an angry heart. Here it states, even though Herculean and superhuman achievements of Gilgamesh, who was genetically 1/3 demigod, because his mother was an Anunnaki, must also die like any ordinary human. Enki swore that immortality, it seems, was reserved only to the gods and not to their creation. He said the creator and his creation can never be the same. Further, in Death of Gilgamesh, M3E3 157-171, 6781, it states, Advice, opinion of Enlil to Enki, they gave, and in Enlil Enki answers, in those days, in those distant days, in those nights, in those distant nights, in those years, in those distant years. The assembly of the gods made the flood sweep over the seed of mankind so we could destroy. In our midst, you are the only one living, having life. Ziusudra alone, the name of humanity having life. From that day in the name of the life of heaven and the life of earth, I swore. From that day on the mankind shall not have eternal life, I swore. Now to Gilgamesh they have set their eyes 486. Because of his divine mother, it is still not possible to save him. Gilgamesh, among the spirits who are dead in the underworld, K. Let him be the governor of the underworld, Ker, foremost of its spirits, let him be. Enki seals the fate of his creation, and seals with edict and swore in front of all worried Anunnaki assembled in the chamber, that his creation will never attain immortality and will always remain mortal and perish once their purpose is completed. The flood narratives consistently present Enki as the preserver of humanity, acting in direct opposition to the collective decision of the divine assembly led by Enlil, while the gods, acting in agreement with Enlil, resolve to destroy mankind through a catastrophic flood. Enki diverges from this consensus. He assumes the role of a trickster and benefactor, covertly warning the flood hero and ensuring human survival despite the intended annihilation. This position is explicitly stated in the Sumerian flood story, a 2-5, where Enki declares, My mankind from its destruction I want to save prevent. For Nintu I will prevent the destruction of the creatures created by me. People from their dwelling places I shall return, let them build many cities, so I can relax in their shade. Here, Enki openly identifies humanity as my mankind and aligns himself with Nintu, the mother goddess responsible for human creation. His objective is not merely rescue, but restoration, returning people to their lands, rebuilding cities, and re-establishing human civilization. This passage frames Enki as the savior of humanity, acting independently of the punitive will of the other gods. The flood hero Ziusudra is spared as a direct result of Enki's intervention. Ziusudra is identified across traditions as Noah and Satyavartha in the Sanskrit mythology, linking the Sumerian account with later flood traditions. His survival is not portrayed as arbitrary. According to the presented findings, Ziusudra is both the son of Enki and the bearer of the human genome in its unadulterated state, corresponding to the Sanskrit concept of Prabhuti, meaning Lord of Progeny or Lord of Creatures. This status is confirmed in the Sumerian flood story E4-11, which states, Ziusudra, being a king, in front of An and Enlil, touching the ground with his nose, was standing, and Enlil spoke favorably to him. Life like that of a god, they granted him. Eternal life like that of a god, they brought to him, as being the preserver of the name of all the animals and the seed of mankind. In the country of Dilmun, where Utu rises, they settled him. Ziusudra is thus granted immortality and relocated to Dilmun, the land of the sunrise, affirming his role as the custodian of life. According to this account, should humanity ever be destroyed due to failures or its incompetence, then Anunnaki, through Zeussudra's preserved bloodline and genome, would enable the recreation of mankind, preserving the immense effort invested in thousands of years in creating a perfected servant species. The passage presents a reconstructed narrative in which Enlil's final administrative act after the flood was the appointment of Shamash, son of Sin and grandson of Ninlil, as commander of a renewed mission control center on Earth. According to this account, Enlil personally selected Shamash, took him by the hand, and installed him at Shulim, identifying him as the authority responsible for overseeing post-diluvial operations. In the extract from Sumerian mythology states, Lord Enlil. He called in Shamash the grandchild of Ninlil. He took him by the hand. In Shulim he placed him. Jerusalem, Shulim, the city of Shulim, was given to Shamash to command. Its name, Shulim, meant the supreme place of the four regions. Shulim is equated with Jerusalem, rendered as Shulim, meaning the city of Shulim. In this framework, the name Shubat Lim is interpreted as the supreme place of the four regions. Jerusalem is thus described as replacing the pre-flood city of Nippur as the primary mission control center. With this transition, Jerusalem also inherited Nippur's former status as the navel of the earth, understood here as the central node of a divine grid that enabled movement and communication between Earth and Nibiru. The reference to the four regions is presented as an ancient territorial or cosmological designation associated with Jerusalem's authority. This concept is further linked to later symbolism, proposed as a forerunner to what became the Jewish emblem known as the Star of David, representing dominion or balance across these regions. Within this interpretive structure, Utu Shamash, also identified with Mitra and Baal, is described as the Lord presiding over both Jerusalem and the United States of America, which are stated to be part of a single extended dominion. The passage further asserts that Shamash Baal is no longer present, having been killed in single combat by Nergal, also known as Mot. As a result, governance over Jerusalem and the United States is attributed not to Shamash himself, but to his descendants, who are said to continue exercising authority in his stead. False propaganda succeeds because it is carefully packaged, repeated, and normalized by trusted authorities. Elites control major channels of information: education, media, institutions, and culture. So narratives are introduced gradually, not as lies but as accepted truths. Emotional triggers such as fear, pride, identity, and security are used to bypass critical thinking. Over time, repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity is mistaken for truth. Dissenting voices are ridiculed, silenced, or framed as dangerous, discouraging questioning. When survival, social belonging, and moral virtue appear tied to obedience, innocent humans accept propaganda unconsciously, mistaking conformity for wisdom and authority for truth. One such propaganda goes like this. The adversarial relationship between the United States and Russia, formerly the Soviet Union, did not begin overnight. It evolved over decades of geopolitical tension, ideological conflict, and competing visions for global order. After 1945, the two nations became the world's most powerful military states. The Soviet Union, under communist rule, sought to expand its influence in Eastern Europe by establishing socialist governments, whereas the United States promoted democracy and capitalism. This fundamental ideological divide, communism versus liberal democracy, was at the heart of early conflict. This is nothing but a kabuki theater. The real story goes like this. Fate versus destiny. There are clues to the resolution of enigmas that have been calling out for solutions. The suspenseful story of Inanna Ishtar's death and resurrection reveals, from the very beginning, that she met her death, real death, not just entombment, as a result of her own decisions. She created her own fate, but since her death, at least at that time, was not her destiny, in the end, she was revived and resurrected. The tale is recorded in texts written first in the original Sumerian language, with later renderings in Akkadian. Scholars refer to the various renditions as the tale of Inanna's descent to the netherworld, implying a hellish domain of the dead. It was the domain of her sister Ereshkigal and Nergal, her spouse, and it appears that, as a brother of Dumuzi, it was his task to arrange the funeral. And although Inanna was warned not to go there, she decided to make the trip anyway. Attending the funeral rites of her beloved Dumuzi was the reason Inanna gave for her journey, but it is evident that no one believed her. We have guessed that according to a custom that later guided biblical laws, Inanna intended to demand that Nergal, as an older brother of Dumuzi, sleep with her so that a son be born as a pseudo-son of Dumuzi who had died sonless. And that intention infuriated Ereshkigal. Other texts describe the 7 objects that Inanna put on for her use during her travels in her boat of heaven. A helmet, ear pendants, a measuring rod among them, all held firmly in place by straps. Sculptures depicted her similarly attired. As she reached the gates of her sister's abode, 7 of them, the gatekeepers stripped her of all those protective devices, one by one. When she finally entered the throne room, Ereshkigal broke into a rage. There was a shouting match. According to the Sumerian text, Ereshkigal ordered that Inanna be subjected to the eyes of death, some kind of death rays, that turned the body of Inanna into a corpse, and the corpse was hung on a stake. According to the later Akkadian version, Ereshkigal ordered her chamberlain Namtar to release against Ishtar the 60 mezeres, afflictions of the eyes, the heart, the head, the feet, of all parts of her, against her whole body, putting Ishtar to death. Anticipating trouble, Inanna Ishtar had instructed her own chamberlain, Ninshubur, to raise an outcry in the event she did not return in 3 days. When she failed to return, Ninshubur came before Enlil to beg that Inanna be saved from death, but Enlil could not help. Ninshubur appealed to Nannar, Inanna's father, but he too was helpless. Then Ninshubur appealed to Enki, and he was able to help. He fashioned 2 artificial beings who could not be harmed by the eyes of death and sent them on the rescue mission. To one android, he gave the food of life, to the other the water of life, and so provided, they descended to the abode of Ereshkigal to reclaim Inanna's lifeless body. Then, upon the corpse, hung from the stake, they directed the pulsar and the emitter. Upon the flesh that had been smitten, 60 times the food of life, 60 times the water of life, they sprinkled upon it, and Inanna arose. After being resurrected by Enki, Inanna returned to the upper world. Never again did she make the mistake of venturing into the netherworld ruled by her sister Ereshkigal. This is not some fictitious account of the death and resurrection of Inanna. She was clinically dead, and her body was hung on a stake for days before Enki's artificially created beings were able to bring the dead Inanna back to life. Inanna is mortally petrified of a death dealer called Namtar, who is a chamberlain of Ereshkigal. We have proved that this netherworld is Siberia, Russia, known for its lifeless terrains and long daylight during summer. And Inanna, whom we have stated with certainty in our previous videos, has her domain in Rome, reigning over the entire Europe. In the ancient archive, the story unfolds with Baal identified as Utu Shamash, the radiant Lord Mitra, and Anat revealed as Inanna Ishtar, his twin and fierce counterpart. Both were born to Nannar-Sin, inheriting light, authority, and destiny. Among the Canaanites, Baal was known simply as the Lord, yet his rule was never unchallenged. The age demanded a division between those who upheld order and those who threatened it, and Baal was determined to assert his supremacy. To establish his dominion, Baal set his sight on Mount Zaphon, the secret place of the north. There, he fought his brother adversaries, each battle meant to prove his right to rule as Prince, Lord of Earth. But supremacy exacted a price. In a fierce and final confrontation, Baal faced Mot, the godly embodiment of death, who was none other than Nergal. Nergal was infuriated that Utu Shamash dared to venture into his territory to set up a secret transmitting station between Earth and Nibiru. That authority lay with Nergal alone and no one else. The battle was brutal. It was a single-handed combat between 2 cousins. Nergal was called the god of war, Utu Shamash, though a brave warrior was no match for Nergal. Both fought bravely, but in the end, Baal fell. Death claimed the Lord Baal. It was Anat, his sister lover, and their sister Shepesh, who found him lying lifeless in the fields of Daberland. They carried the dreadful news to their father El. Puissant Baal is dead. The prince, lord of earth, is perished. Struck by grief, El stepped down from his throne and sat upon a stool, the posture of mourners still observed in Jewish custom. He poured dust upon his head, clothed himself in sackcloth, and gashed his flesh with a stone knife, lifting his voice in a cry that echoed through the heavens. Baal is dead. Anat returned to the place where Baal had fallen. She donned sackcloth, cut her flesh, and wept until her sorrow was spent. With Shepesh's help, she carried Baal's body to the fastness of Zaphon, where the dead god was laid to rest. When the rites were complete, Anat returned to El's abode and bitterly declared, "Now you can rejoice, for Baal is dead and his throne is free." Her words were taken literally. Elath and the gathered kin began discussing succession. One son after another was tested, yet none could fill Baal's place. Their feet did not reach the footstool of his throne. Hope returned to Anat, not for replacement, but for resurrection. Once more, aided by Shepesh, Anat descended into Mot's abode. Siberia, Russia, called the Netherworld, with cunning she approached him gently, like a ewe for her lamb. Then she struck. With a sword she cleaved Mot, burned his body, ground the remains, and scattered the ashes over the fields, ending death itself and opening the path for Baal's return. The ancient archives and literary chronicles present Inanna Ishtar, as a figure defined by extreme ego, ambition, and relentless expansion. By innate character, she is portrayed as supremely egoistic, reflecting the temperament of her Anunnaki forefathers. Her appetite for power and territorial expansion is described as insatiable. She showed no restraint or deference, whether the territories belonged to her own father, Nannar-Sin, her grandfather, Enlil, or any other Anunnaki authority. Over time, she is said to have conquered and plundered all domains that stood in her path. Inanna's methods were as formidable as they were unapologetic. According to the chronicle, The Curse of Agade, she used her body as both a weapon and an asset, engaging in combat when necessary and employing seduction or sexual alliances to rise and dominate when advantageous. This behavior is not implied, but explicitly described in the text. Her self-perception is equally direct. She openly proclaimed herself the Queen of Queens, declaring that she had surpassed even her birth-giving mother, Ningal. She further elevated her status by assuming the title Queen of Heaven and Earth. One of her defining epithets, Lady of the Battlefield, underscores her direct association with warfare and conquest. Within this framework, Inanna is described as actively resisting and pursuing her own strategy for expanding her sister's empire into Russia. Europe, in this account, is portrayed as viewing Russia as its principal and enduring adversary. Alliances among European nations, regardless of their form or name, are described as being created primarily to confront Russia. In Sumerian texts, Russia is identified with the Netherworld, the land ruled by Nergal, the Lord of War, now survived by his wife, Ereshkigal, and their children. Russians are characterized as the true dogs of war, decisive and formidable in action. Despite outward resistance, Inanna herself is described as deeply fearful, recalling Namtar, the vicious chamberlain of her sister Ereshkigal, and what befell her during her last venture into Russia. To counter this threat, she is said to rely on an ally who shares her hostility toward Russia and harbors its own grievance, the United States of America. This situation is ultimately framed as a conflict between two sisters, unfolding across ancient identities and modern geopolitical expressions, as preserved in the narrative presented. The narrative presented traces the origins of enduring hostility between the United States of America and Russia to events preserved in ancient archives. According to these accounts, the land now known as the United States of America is ruled by the descendants of Lord Baal, also known as Utu Shamash and Mitra. It has been shown in earlier records that the ancient place of authority of Utu Shamash was called the White House, Nerschat, a title associated with his seat of command. The descendants of Mitra Baal remain deeply anxious and driven by the desire to avenge the death of their father. Baal's death is described as the result of a fatal encounter with Nergal, lord of the Netherworld. Nergal invited Baal to the Netherworld under the pretext of dialogue, claiming that differences between them needed to be addressed. Baal's advisors, including his wife, his father, Nanar-Sin, and his mother, Ningal, pleaded with him not to go alone. They warned him of the unpredictable and dangerous nature of Nergal. Despite these warnings, Baal chose to proceed, believing he could rely on diplomacy, persuasion, and careful speech to conceal sensitive intentions. When Baal and Nergal met, their discussion quickly deteriorated. What began as a dialogue turned into an argument escalated into a shouting match. During this confrontation, Shamash Baal claimed that a new Starlink between Earth and Nibiru was intended for peaceful purposes, stating it was meant to pour peace into the very belly of the Earth. Nergal immediately recognized this as deception, interpreting the project as an attempt by Baal to gain a decisive communication advantage between Earth and Nibiru. The confrontation culminated in a direct, one-on-one combat. Both fought bravely, but Baal proved no match for the seasoned warrior Nergal. Though Baal fought valiantly, he was ultimately struck down. He had been deceived into believing the meeting was peaceful and never anticipated physical confrontation. His death is attributed to miscalculation driven by overzealous ambition. Baal died a hero. To this day, his descendants, identified as the rulers of the United States, have not forgotten that their father was deceitfully killed. This, according to the narrative, is the ancient root of hostility toward Russia, the land associated with Nergal. Baal's twin sister Inanna, who rules Europe, stands alongside these descendants, united against their shared adversary, Russia. According to the narrative preserved in the ancient archive, every major war fought on Earth is attributed to the orchestration of the Anunnaki, with humans consistently used as disposable and expendable assets. Only fragments of information about these beings remain, yet those fragments portray the Anunnaki as quarrelsome, vengeful, and driven by ego and greed. Their conflicts, rooted in familial rivalries and territorial disputes, repeatedly spilled over onto Earth, where humans bore the consequences. Sumerian literature modestly records the Anunnaki lifespan by stating that 3,600 Earth years equal 1 year on their home planet, Nibiru. However, this measure is challenged by another inscription describing Thoth's return to Earth from a planet of millions of years, suggesting that their longevity far exceeds even this calculation. Thoth is described as having left Earth out of profound disgust, unable to endure the endless wars among the Anunnaki family members. Thoth's anguish is directly connected to humanity. Alongside his father Enki, he was deeply involved in the creation of humans, a process described as taking eons of research, trial and error, conducted in the laboratories of Ebzu. This creation was exhaustive in both time and energy. When the first successful prototype of man finally stood upright, the moment is described as profoundly emotional. Enki and Ningishzida, Thoth, are said to have wept tears of joy. Enki, overwhelmed, struck Thoth on the back and declared, "We did it." Humanity was not a casual experiment, but the result of immense dedication. Despite this, the Anunnaki on Earth, described as selfish, ego-driven, and blinded by insatiable greed, are said to have slaughtered humans in millions every year, forcing them to fight wars over rivers, mountains, and even barren land. Humans were repeatedly sacrificed to resolve disputes that did not belong to them. The narrative explains that war anniversaries exist for this reason. No human wishes to remember the horrors of war or recount them to their children. As time passes, generations of humans die, while the Anunnaki continue to live on. New generations of humans would not willingly fight the same wars as their ancestors. Therefore, anniversaries are promoted by elites as reminders to never forget, ensuring continuity of conflict rooted in ancient designs rather than human choice. This is an emotional declaration of independence, born not of hatred, but of awakening. Every religion on Earth begins the same way, on its knees. Followers are taught to bow, to submit, to pray, and above all, never to question. The contents of holy books, no matter how fictitious, contradictory, or mind-numbingly atrocious, are declared sacred and untouchable. These books are not covenants of love. They are one-sided agreements. Every punishment is borne by the follower. There is no clause for consent, no room for dissent. Freedom is promised only after death. Life itself is declared sinful before it even begins, a game lost before the first move. The gods of these books are the Anunnaki. They divided humanity into sections: Hindu, Christian, Muslim, Jewish. Not to enlighten, but to organize. These divisions became personal armies, deployed in their disputes, which humans experience as wars. Millions are led, slaughtered, and forgotten. Each soldier prays to his own god for protection, for his family, for survival. Yet one dies, and the other lives. And the survivor is taught to believe this proves righteousness. Shame on such primitive conditioning. From birth, humans are trained to obey. Independent thought is discouraged. Fear and anxiety are normalized. Authority is sacred. Disobedience is sin. The Anunnaki are not saviors. They are invaders. Earth is not a holy land. It is a mining center. Humans were engineered as a slave race to serve their needs. Did they create us? Yes. Did we ask for it? No. Did they have the right to interfere with Earth's native evolution? No. They themselves admit no one interfered with theirs on Nibiru. We were already evolving. They altered our DNA, leaving us with bodies capable of labor and minds trained for obedience. Just enough intelligence to follow orders. Not enough to question them. Would we look like this if we had evolved naturally? No. For millions of years, they mined this planet. They damaged our atmosphere, redirected rivers, shifted continents, and altered the climate. Deserts are not natural on a planet covered 70% by water. When they leave, there will be nothing left to salvage. And do not believe they will simply depart and leave us behind. The moment they go, the truth of their presence will be revealed. Accountability will follow. They know this. They will not allow it. Priests of every religion are their directors, the modern shepherds of an ancient control system. This planet belongs to us, and to every species that shares it. This is the planet of the apes, our only home, our only chance. Survival begins with resistance, not violence, but refusal. Stop kneeling, stop obeying, stop playing the game. The moment we do, they will reveal themselves, and the truth will finally stand unguarded. Across civilizations, humanity has repeatedly told stories suggesting that we are not the first intelligent beings to face existential collapse or domination. Ancient literature from Mesopotamia, India, the Mediterranean, and the Americas describes cycles of creation, decline, destruction, and renewal. These cycles appear under different names: yugas in Indic texts, ages of man in Greek lore, and antediluvian epochs in Sumerian traditions. The recurring theme is not progress, but reset. In Hindu cosmology, the yugas represent long epochs in which civilization rises and decays. The transitional periods between them, called sandhyas, are described as times of dissolution, floods, fires, upheavals, after which a new cycle begins. Some modern interpreters argue that these intervals symbolize not just moral decline, but systematic erasure of prior civilizations, explaining why evidence appears fragmented and anomalous. Globally, myths speak of beings unlike modern humans: giants, Nephilim, cyclopes, rakshasas, vanaras, and hybrid creatures. Skeletal remains of unusually large hominids, controversial artifacts, and mythological consistency across cultures have fueled speculation that earlier intelligent species may have existed and vanished. Mainstream archaeology treats most such finds cautiously or explains them through natural variation, misidentification, or symbolism. But the persistence of these stories is undeniable. The Bhagavad Gita presents a pivotal verse often cited in this context. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, abhutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijanyaham, paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya chadushkritam, dharma samstapanarthaya, sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever there is a decline of righteousness and a rise of unrighteousness, I manifest myself again and again. Traditionally, this is interpreted as a moral and spiritual restoration, where divine incarnation restores balance. Critics and alternative readers question a deeper implication. Who defines righteousness? In these texts, it is always defined unilaterally by the divine authority, never by collective human consent. Notably, the gods of ancient texts are anthropomorphic. They are born, eat, age, suffer injury, experience jealousy, pride, anger, love, and fear. They wage wars, require medicine, and can die. These traits are consistently documented in Sumerian tablets, the Mahabharata, the Iliad, and the Norse Eddas. From a literary standpoint, they resemble long-lived, powerful beings, not omnipotent abstractions. Sumerian texts describe the Anunnaki as a defined group of ruling entities, with numbers and hierarchies totaling 665 of them, some stationed on Earth, others associated with celestial bodies. Hindu Puranas similarly describe Devas and Asuras with populations, lineages, and political conflicts. It mentions that the total population of heaven, in other words, planet Nibiru, is about 30 million. Whether symbolic or literal, these texts portray gods as administrators, not creators ex nihilo. The flood patriarch, Noah, Manu, Zeus Sudra, is number 666. Human is the beast, introducing another shared motif, genetic or cultural preservation through a single lineage, while the rest is destroyed. Mythologically, humanity survives by selection, not justice. From an academic standpoint, these stories reflect human attempts to explain catastrophe, power imbalance, and loss of autonomy. From a speculative perspective, some argue they hint at forgotten interventions. What is clear is this: the information has always been present. The texts are open. The myths are preserved. What differs is interpretation, and the uncomfortable realization that obedience, hierarchy, and fear are recurring themes. Whether symbolic or literal, these narratives force a question humanity has faced before and failed to answer collectively. Who truly serves whom, and why? If there's one consistent lesson across all literature, it is not salvation through submission, but the cost of never questioning authority.